You hit it. 7 figures. The number that's been shorthand for made it your whole life. Millionaire. You pull up the account, stare at the balance, and wait for the feeling everyone promised. It doesn't come. Because the math underneath that number is telling you something the label never did. $1 million run through the exact withdrawal rule financial planners have used for 30 years. Generates $40,000 a year, $3,333 a month before taxes. That's the actual textbook recommended sustainable output of the number that's supposed to mean you've made it. Somewhere between the movies and the mindset, the word millionaire stopped meaning what the math says it means. And almost nobody notices the gap until they're standing in it. Here's why the number feels so much bigger than what it produces. When you picture $1 million, your brain doesn't picture $3,300 a month. It pictures the whole number, spendable, all at once, like winning it in a lottery. But $1 million you need to live on for 30 years isn't a pile of cash you get to spend. It's a machine that has to keep running long after you stop working. The number that actually matters was never the balance. It was always the monthly output. And the monthly output of $1 million is a solidly middle-class income. Not poverty. Not struggle. But nowhere close to the lifestyle the word millionaire conjures in most people's heads. Here's where it gets worse, and almost nobody adjusts for this. That $1 million doesn't hold still. According to Federal Reserve inflation data, prices have risen roughly 66% over the last 20 years, which means $1 million sitting in an account today has approximately the same real purchasing power that $600 and $3,000 had 2 decades ago. The number on your statement didn't shrink. What it can actually buy did. Groceries, healthcare, housing, the things that number is supposed to cover for the rest of your life, all quietly got more expensive while the balance stayed exactly where it was. That's precisely why so many people who hit $1 million today feel less secure than they expected to, because on a purchasing power basis, they didn't actually arrive where the old idea of a millionaire used to stand. This is also why the psychological finish line keeps moving. Ask people today what number they think they need for a comfortable retirement, and recent research from Northwestern Mutual puts the average answer at roughly $1.46 million, not $1 million. That's not because people got greedier. It's because they're implicitly adjusting for the exact purchasing power erosion we just walked through. The finish line isn't moving because humans are never satisfied. It's moving because the actual cost of the life $1 million used to buy has genuinely gone up. Now let's be fair to the number, because this isn't a video about how $1 million is worthless. Combined with Social Security, which currently averages a little under $2,000 a month for a retired worker, that $3,300 portfolio withdrawal turns into a household income north of $5,000 a month, comfortably above the median household income in most parts of the country. For someone who owns their home outright and lives in a moderate cost of living area, $1 million genuinely can fund a comfortable, dignified retirement. The problem was never the number itself. The problem is the fantasy attached to the word millionaire. A fantasy built in an era when $1 million meant something closer to what 600,000 means today. A fantasy that never got updated even though the purchasing power quietly did. Here's the part that should change how you're actually planning, not just how you feel about the number. If you're building toward $1 million as your finish line, the real question isn't whether you'll hit it. Plenty of disciplined savers do. The real question is whether the version of $1 million you'll be holding 20 or 30 years from now still buys what you're picturing right now, today, if inflation continues anywhere near its historical average. The number you'll actually need by retirement is meaningfully higher than the number that feels comfortable to you today, and the gap between those two numbers is exactly the gap between the people who retire confidently and the people who hit their target and still feel like something's short. This is also why so many financial planners have quietly moved away from a single fixed savings target and started talking instead in terms of a monthly income goal, adjusted for where and when you plan to retire. $1 million isn't a fixed prize you're chasing. It's a snapshot of a moving target, and treating it like a finish line instead of a checkpoint is exactly how disciplined savers end up disappointed the moment they cross it. So if you're still years away from your own 7 figures, here's the honest reframe worth carrying with you. The number was never the goal. The monthly income it can sustainably produce in the actual future you're going to be living in is the goal. $1 million today and $1 million 20 years from now are not the same amount of security. Even though they'll look identical on a statement, and the sooner your plan accounts for that difference, the less likely you are to be the person staring at the 7 figures they worked their entire life for, waiting for a feeling the math never actually promised them. Subscribe if you want the next video, where we build out exactly what number you'd need today to match the real purchasing power $1 million had 20 years ago.